Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 97 of Paul Heyman's TNA. We'll begin with Mr. Anderson stood in the ring. He points to the screen where a recap video of last week plays. He inserted himself into a World Heavyweight Championship match with Bryan Danielson, only to go on to be defeated by him. He stands here tonight to offer an explanation, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He goes on to explain that as part of helping Paul Heyman out, he was promised a future title shot. However, as of next Friday night, he is no longer contracted to TNA. When negotiations came to a standstill, he decided that he had to take action, and there was no better negotiating tool for him than becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. So he accepts that he didn't do things the way he should have done, but Mr. Anderson was just looking out for himself. As he continues, Kurt Angle comes out and he says this isn't something where Mr. Anderson didn't have a choice. This was always his plan. He always intended to find a cheap way to try and win the title. He may have fooled Heyman, he may have fooled Matt Morgan, which of course isn't hard to do, but everybody else, including the fans, saw right through what he was doing from day one. This is of course a further indictment of Paul Heyman's recent leadership of the company, and Angle adds that Paul Heyman better show his face tonight or else things are just going to get worse and worse. Out from the back, Matt Morgan takes issue with Angle's comments towards him, but also confronts Mr. Anderson. He was kept in the dark about this just as much as everybody else, as Angle says that the issue is between the two of them. Morgan blindsides him, obviously more annoyed by the comment about his intelligence than Mr. Anderson, taking him for a ride. As Morgan and Anderson beat down Kurt Angle, Roderick Strong makes his return with a steel chair and clears the ring. It's been a few weeks since we've seen Strong here on Impact, but he's always had that mentor-protege relationship with Kurt Angle, and when he came into the company he was actually involved with Mr. Anderson. Good improvising from Anderson and Angle is good to see. The other two I think just lack the overness, and that's why they either come across as underwhelming or don't look good, and despite those negative notes it is a good way to open the show. We then get a follow-up from that attack a couple of weeks ago. Colt Cabana was defeated by Austin Aries last week, and Samoa Joe defeats Jerry Lynn in 9 minutes and 59 by submission with a Kikina clutch. It's a good match as described by the game, and while Lynn gets some offense in, it is a decisive win for Samoa Joe. He takes a microphone after the match and sends a warning to Paul Heyman after he throws Jerry Lynn to the outside. He says that if Heyman's ass isn't already at the building, he'd better be doing whatever he can to make sure that he's here by the end of the night. CM Punk will be calling him out, and he won't be leaving the ring until he hears from Heyman. So promoting a segment for later tonight there, with Samoa Joe sending a warning to the man in charge. Kurt Angle then cuts a promo with Roderick Strong in the back. It's a decent segment again, and he talks about what happened as we open the show. Angle says that Mr. Anderson might be on his way out the door, but there's still time for one more ass kicking on the way out. When Mr. Anderson came into TNA, it wasn't long before he went after Kurt Angle, and it wasn't long after that when Roderick Strong arrived and Anderson took him down on his first day. Next Thursday is Mr. Anderson's last day in TNA, and Angle and Strong issue a challenge to Matt Morgan and Mr. Anderson. He adds a warning to Morgan about choosing his next step wisely. He showed how stupid he is in the ring earlier tonight. Without Anderson, he doesn't have many allies left in TNA. Morgan needs to make the right decision. We then get the second match of the night. It is Tara v Alyssa Flash, two women in the Knockouts division who have been in good form recently. Fortunately, Tara's gimmick, I do need to change that. I will be changing that soon. But she picks up the victory in 11 minutes and 19. It says illegally using the ropes for leverage. It's actually not that. It's that Alyssa Flash has Tara in the inverted cloverleaf. It looks like this will be the end of Tara's undefeated streak since those losses to Mickie James. But as the referee is asking Tara if she gives up, Tara grabs the referee and throws him towards them. There's a collision between the three people in the ring that breaks the move. This then allows Tara to hit the Widow's Peak and pin Alyssa Flash. So had it not been for that bending of the rules, it looked like Tara was going to tap out, but she stands tall in the ring following victory. Questionable means, but she has still continued her impressive run, bouncing back from that rivalry with Mickie James, and Marwan has once again put over the focus that she is showing as her arm is raised in the ring. So there's plenty of reason to give her a new gimmick. It's just that I keep forgetting to set it in game. Tara is somebody who is very much getting a solid push. A 55 was her rating, 57 for Alyssa Flash, so decent, but two women who I'd like to see breaking into the 60s sooner rather than later. Bryan Danielson is interviewed by Jeremy Borash, and he's asked also about the events of last week, given his perspective on what happened, and whether he feels that the power void within the company at this particular time of all times is dangerous. The World Heavyweight Champion says that what Mr. Anderson pulled last week shouldn't surprise anybody, and he's sure that Kurt and Roddy will make him pay next week. American Dragon says he isn't here to comment on who's running the company or how they run it. He's here to fight. That's all he's ever been here to do, and that's thankfully all he's had to do. As a result, he's requested a match this Saturday night on Evolve. He wants to be as sharp as possible going into his rematch at Hard Justice, and he can't wait to tear it up with one of his old friends, although somebody who he's not quite sure about their recent actions, in the shape of Paul London. The hour ends with a victory for LAX, Amazing Red, Hernandez and Homicide defeating Magnus and the Young Bucks of Sweet and Sour. Amazing Red pinning Nick Jackson with a red eye in what is a solid match. They stand tall afterwards. A good win for LAX. The commentators putting over Homicide and Hernandez as one of many teams with their sights set on the World Tag Team Championships. The second hour begins with Tyler Black in action against Charlie Haas, and he defeats him in 12 minutes and 21 by pinfall with a blackout. It wouldn't be a Tyler Black victory without some involvement from the outside, and Jimmy Jacobs distracts him. It's not decisive in the finish of the match, but it does allow Tyler Black to take control, and he does go on to pick up the victory. A good performance from Tyler Black there as well. Really happy to see that. Coming out from the back after Tyler Black's victory, Low-Ki confronts the X Division champion, backing him into a corner in the ring. Black looks afraid of the fired up Low-Ki, who was twice screwed out in title matches against him. Jimmy Jacobs grabs Low-Ki, trying to pull him away from Tyler Black, telling him he's done. He's obviously referencing the stipulation from Victory Road, which stated that a defeat for Low-Ki would disqualify him from challenging Black for the X Division title again. It isn't long before Jacobs regrets this, as a single kick from Low-Ki takes him down. This moment allows Black to escape out of the ring, rolling under the bottom rope and leaving with his title. Low-Ki says that just like tonight, he knows that Black can't win without help from the outside, but it isn't Tyler that he wants. Sending a message via Black and Jacobs, Low-Ki tells the ROH spokesperson Steve Corino to find his wrestling boots for this Saturday on Evolve. He's got the match made, and it'll take place this weekend. We then get a segment in the back, Angelina Love and Velvet Sky presenting a Beautiful People Show special report. We want it to seem like breaking news during this show, and we see the two women sat behind a desk. Their feature looks at the reasons that Daphne and Roxy don't deserve a Knockouts Tag Team Championship match, and they bring in Brooke to break down the facts and figures. Dressed smartly, she's wearing glasses, she's got a clipboard. Brooke suggests that the 4 wins, 0 draws and 4 losses record of DNR in 2011 doesn't indicate that the two women deserve a title shot, and she recommends that the Beautiful People reject the challenge in her expert opinion. Angelina Love and Velvet then deliver the breaking news: the challenge of DNR is officially rejected. So a bit of a silly segment there, just Angelina Love and Velvet Sky playing down the potential challenge of DNR. While their record isn't probably the best, in recent weeks they have shown that they appear to have the number of the Beautiful People, and they're not going to give up that easily. We then get a quick showcase match for El Generico. It's 4 minutes and 54, but we wanted to kind of cram all his big stuff in there. El Generico is somebody I'm very keen on getting over, and I've got something quite specific in mind for him, but I think that the best way to get this guy over is to just show everybody what he's capable of, some of his fast-paced, high-flying moves, and he eventually wins with the Brainbuster. 42 rated match, not very good, but I'm hoping with a dominate and decisive finish note, it will do good things for the momentum and potentially overness of El Generico. He stands tall following a decisive victory. We then get a promo in the back from the World Tag Team Champions, with Jeff Hardy and Sting responding to the growing number of teams staking a claim for their titles. The tag team division has never been so vibrant. The Icon and the Enigma are delighted to see so much competition in the division, but they know that this situation needs to be sorted. While many have struggled to get anything out of him, they've received word from the man in charge. Next week, they will make a huge announcement on Impact regarding the situation of sorting out all these challengers, but they'll also be in attendance this Saturday at Evolve to address their next challengers for Hard Justice. So 2 big announcements coming from the World Tag Team Champions as we go into the main event of the night. A good match, Mickie James defeating Sara Del Rey in 15 minutes and 7 seconds with a fast roll-up coming as Sara Del Rey locks in a cross arm breaker, the move that has won her so many matches, but Mickie James is able to reverse the momentum, and a quick roll-up out of nowhere means that Mickie James makes defense number 3 of the Knockouts title. It's a 72 rating, so I'm really happy with that. The 2 best women in the division having great chemistry obviously helps, and couldn't be more pleased with that. The crowd buzzing after this match, and it's great to see this level of match from Knockouts. This is what we want to become the norm over time, and with some people that we're building up, and with somebody else who hopefully will be debuting sooner rather than later. I do think that is something we are capable of. Mickie James stands tall after the match, having retained her title in the tightest of manners. It could have gone either way. That was the case throughout the match. Sara Del Rey will have every reason to be frustrated having come so close, but Mickie remains the Knockouts champion. While she celebrates in the ring, Mickie is grabbed from behind by Madison Rayne, having already put the glove she used at Victory Road on. Madison hits the knockout punch, as it's been dubbed, to Mickie James, laying her out in the ring. The Queen of the Mountain then picks up the Knockouts title from the ground, raising it in the air while standing over Mickie James. She makes clear her intention after defeating Awesome Kong at the pay-per-view. She now wants the Knockouts Championship. We then come back from the final break of the show, and CM Punk makes his way down to the ring. He sits inside the 6 sides with his legs crossed, and he made his demands clear last week. There's not much else for him to say, but he isn't going anywhere until Paul Heyman shows his face. After a brief delay, he begins to say that since he's here with a microphone, maybe he should explain his issues with TNA Wrestling. And first of all, it starts with the name of this damn promotion. Before he can go any further, however, AJ Styles comes out from the back. He's not going to let CM Punk hold this show hostage, and Punk gets up, the 2 men going nose to nose. Styles tells Punk that he's only been here for 3 weeks, but he has already heard more than enough from this man. AJ says that he has waited years to knock Punk's teeth down his throat, so instead of protesting, he suggests that they fight right here and right now. Both men have already waited long enough for this to happen, so why not make it happen right now? As the situation looks set to break out into a brawl, Paul Heyman makes his first appearance, albeit on the big screen. Speaking from his home, Paul Heyman calls for calm. He understands how volatile the situation is at the moment, and he promises that he will be back inside the 6-sided ring very, very soon. He knows that he has to address all this, but he's not ready quite yet. Despite their differences, he loves the pride in the companies that both of these men are showing. Ring of Honor, TNA, it doesn't matter. That passion is what this business is all about. And he wants to see that at Hard Justice. He wants these men to represent their company with this much passion and heart, as CM Punk and Samoa Joe represent Ring of Honor against TNA's AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. Security is then sent out to make sure that CM Punk and AJ Styles stay apart, but both men continue to jawjack, threatening each other and making it clear that there is going to be a huge fight at the upcoming pay-per-view, and it is CM Punk and Samoa Joe's chance to back up everything they've been saying. A 75 is a decent show rating. I'm happy with how the main event went, as well as that final segment, and hopefully with Bryan Danielson in action and that match between Loki and Steve Corino, TNA Evolve can also be a really strong show. And the show begins with a match which is not quite as good as I expected. I thought we'd get a really strong start to the show here, but Loki defeats Steve Corino in 11 minutes and 38 with a Warrior's Way. This is actually Steve Corino's debut in TNA. Thought it might be a bit of a draw for Evolve, but with the way it's gone, maybe not. A 59 really isn't good enough. But after the match, Loki stands tall in the ring. He is joined by the Evolve champion Desmond Wolfe, and that match will take place next week. So coming off a big win for Loki, Desmond Wolfe ready to defend his title. We then get a interview which is poorly improvised by Paul London, but Kevin Steen does a good job, and London is promoting his match with Bryan Danielson tonight. He's ready to beat the champ. he'll put himself to the front of the line, and Kevin Steen hypes up his new friend, and he's confident that London has got what it takes to beat Danielson. We then get a recap of that final segment from the end of Impact and the Hard Justice match which has been made. AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe and CM Punk. Punk's first match, a tag team match at the pay-per-view. The second match of the night sees Sara Del Rey pretty much squash Brooke, although it's 6 minutes and 12, so not quite a squash, but a decisive victory for her, and she makes Brooke tap out. A terrible match according to the game, but Sarita putting in a decent performance, and she's another part of this Knockouts division that we can build around. Again, if she picks up some important wins, those ratings will be easily in the 60s, I feel, and she stands tall, very happy to have picked up the win. We then get the announcement that the Icon and the Enigma spoke about, but they are cut off by the American Wolves. They say that there is no doubt that they should be the top contenders. They beat LAX in that match that was supposed to be a number one contendership, but then every other team in the company tried to stick their noses in. Jeff Hardy and Sting cool the situation because that's what they were out here to announce. Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards will get their match at Hard Justice, with Jeff and Sting pointing out that after the attack that took place before Victory Road, those guys didn't think that they were going to get away with it. The two teams going face to face. As the commentators put over that Sting and Jeff Hardy also have an announcement coming on Impact this week, which is about more generally where the tag team division is going. We then get a little skit with Eric Young, who's just complaining about his recent troubles. He seems like he can't find anywhere to fit in. He was given that advice. He's tried to take it, but it just doesn't seem to be working. He walks past the door of Sweet and Sour, and feeling like he's exhausted every other avenue, he knocks on the door of Larry Sweeney. Maybe he is interested in joining that agency. We then get the main event. It's a solid match. It's not brilliant, to be fair, with Paul London being off his game. This was supposed to be a big chance for him to show himself in a big main event match. His promo wasn't very good, and then he's off his game, so not very happy with him there. But Bryan Danielson with an 85 is really good to see. Confident that he can carry not only Impacts but certainly pay-per-views, which he's going to have to do, of course, as the world champion. It's a competitive 15-minute match, so he tried to make Paul London look as good as possible, but Bryan Danielson eventually defeats him by pinfall. I was thinking probably more the running knee than a dragon suplex, but it doesn't matter too much. Kevin Steen enters the ring to check on Paul London after the match, and there's a little interaction between Bryan and Kevin Steen. They go face to face to end the show. Kevin Steen, of course, not quite at the level of World Heavyweight Championship contender just yet, but just laying seeds of something that may or may not happen in the future. Right, it's a 70. This is very, very disappointing. I think we could be getting kicked off here. This could be the end of Evolve. So we've had 3 shows below 71 within like the last probably month and a half, so could be in trouble here. Yeah, kicked off the MTV schedule. That is so disappointing, and it just basically comes down to Paul London having an off night, not putting in the performance that we needed from him. I thought with a Sting and Jeff Hardy promo followed by Bryan Danielson in the main event it'd be enough, but I suppose there's nothing I can do about that. We've lost the slot on MTV. I don't know whether that means we can't even get a new deal for Evolve. We'll see what happens going forward, but that is a real dampener to end the show on. Either way, thank you for watching. I'll be back with the next episode next week, which will be even shorter considering that it will only feature Impact going forward.